Hello, Live Run Boundless family. Welcome to another episode of the Live Run Boundless show. I'm your host, Kenneth Pinkney. Today, I had the privilege of having two guest co-hosts and two good friends in the running community. Also, they are both avid, avid cyclists. Will make them both the perfect fit to co-host an interview with me. So, welcome, caller, and Mose to the LiveRunBoundless show, and thank you for being my co-host.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Yes, yes. Mhm.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. Good morning.
good morning, good morning. Yeah. So, Carlos, it's all you.
Okay, well, today's guest, we have a professional endurance athlete for over 30 years, um, seven-time world champion, author, entrepreneur, Emmy Award winner, and motivational speaker, cycling mentor, producer of the Rusch Academy and Rebecca's Private Idaho. Um, Also, to add, you set a record for river boating expedition down the Grand Canyon, which is pretty amazing. Um, Not only an amazing cyclist, but also a rock climber, adventure racing, whitewater rafting, cross country skiing, and ultra endurance mountain biking. Oh my goodness, that's a mouthful. So, welcome, Rebecca Rusch.
Thank you. And it's funny, all those sports, there has been a through line in my life of doing endurance sports. And so it may seem like I've done a lot of different things, but they're all kind of similar in that being outside, going long distances, and it all started with running. Running was my very first sport in high school.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, it is definitely. What amazing athlete that you are, and also amazing person. And so, but with me, with Live Run Balance, I like to get started with the process, the journey to how the person become who they are today. So I want to start with a little bit about you just growing up in Illinois, now Idaho, as color corrected me a couple days ago.
Yeah, I live in Idaho now, but I did grow up in the suburbs of Chicago, in Illinois, and single mom who worked super hard, and a sister. My dad was killed in the Vietnam War when I was very young, so we grew up in a house full of the girls. And my sister and I really kind of had to fend for ourselves and find our way. And really, like I mentioned, finding cross-country running was really important for me as a young girl to find a community and find some friends and find sport really and find confidence in my own body and exploration. And I'd always been outside. I loved to camp and play outside and be outdoors as a kid. But running was really, and the cross country team was really the structure that I needed as a kid to kind of find my way. I mean, teenage years are so hard, where you're just not sure what you're doing, and running gave me an outlet for my energy and let me go exploring, and I found a place where I belonged, and I've never looked back from that. Like, I've done a lot of different sports, but um the sport has always been kind of, like you say, helped me on my journey with a lot of different things. I never planned to become a professional athlete or any of those things. I really just kept doing sports because they fed my adventurous spirit and they fed my soul, and I found my community in that way.
Cool, yeah. So you asked them you asked them my second question, that was great, So your life, how was your life before become oh no, you didn't answer my second question. My bad. Well, you did before you become a professional athlete, you had a regular job, you had a 9 to 5 job, correct?
Yeah, I went to school at University of Illinois, and I studied business. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I was still doing sports and found the bike at that time and worked in a gym. I taught aerobics and
Okay.
stuff. I
Right,
was
right,
just kind
right.
of around different health and fitness
Yeah.
communities.
Okay.
And so after school, I got a job in a really fancy health club in downtown
Oh,
Chicago,
nice.
writing their newsletters and kind of working in the marketing department. And it was there that, and super fancy club, like
Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey was training there, and like really high-end
Yeah.
health club.
Oh,
And
nice.
they had a climbing wall in
Yeah.
there. And that's where I started climbing and
Yeah.
fell in love with climbing. And that just kind of, then I ended up moving to California and becoming a climbing instructor, and working in the outdoor industry, working at retail shops and becoming a guide.
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting how, yeah, my business degree took me into the health club industry, but then that took me outside more, which is more my passion. I love working out inside, but I'd rather be
Yeah.
out any day.
Oh yeah, I feel you. I'm grateful for my job, work inside mostly. But sometimes I be on top of my computer,
Yeah.
my stand-up desk, 8 hours a day, I look outside, like, man, I just sometimes want to just be outside on the trail sometimes.
Yeah. I wanted to focus my career around because I did love sports, and so first it was the health club industry
Yeah,
indoors,
yeah,
and then climbing gyms, and then it moved outdoors, and I
yeah,
started
yeah.
opening different
That's
climbing
that's
gyms and
good.
managing climbing gyms, and
Yeah, yeah.
and eventually that turned into getting invited to go do this sport that was called adventure racing that I'd
Yeah.
never heard of. And and that was multi-sport where you climb and you paddle and
Nice.
you rock climb and you
Nice.
navigate, and
Yeah.
I got invited to do a couple of those, and
Wow.
sort of one thing led to another, and I
Yeah.
kept getting invited to these really cool opportunities to travel around the world and be on
Yeah.
these teams.
Wow.
And so I decided I needed to quit my job so I could take advantage of the traveling for a while. And
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
honestly, I thought it would just be a couple years of
Yeah.
these opportunities. And then I'd go back and get back into the health club
Hmm.
industry, the
Hmm.
climbing industry. And that has lasted 30 years. One thing led to
Yeah.
another. And
Yeah.
I took my business degree really and my business experience
Mhm.
into forming a team, getting
Yeah.
sponsorship,
Yeah. Yeah.
all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
before social media,
Mhm.
writing little
Mhm.
race
Mhm.
reports to send back to our sponsors. So it was
Mhm.
kind of running a little mini business,
Yeah.
this adventure racing team. And then that led to cycling
Yeah.
and more things. So it kind of has been a very cool trajectory that
Yes.
really planned, but it was all around me wanting to be outside and wanting to,
Yes.
and I have been lucky enough to make a career out of that.
Yes.
So
Oh, yes. It's like with the right time or right moment,
yeah,
like you were meant for it, so everything to line up correctly. So I love that. I love that, definitely.
That's awesome. I have a question though.
yeah.
Since you do have a huge list of things under your belt that you have done and tried, but there's one of the things that I wanted to ask. Um, some people don't know, but you do put a race together, which is Rebecca's Private Idaho. Um, as a race director, producer of the race, how do you find that being a female in the in the I don't want to say industry, but in the sports of cycling because it's so male dominated. As a race director, how 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 do you do it? How do you manage it? How do you go over those obstacles that you may have? Because as I mentioned, it's it's not very often when you see a girl um orchestrating everything.
Yeah, well, we got to change that. That's why
I
I'm here.
know we do.
Is I fully believe that, if people can't see an example of something, they can't imagine their self there. And all the sports I've done, I was typically the only female in the room or one of a very few. And that has changed. Now I see women riding bikes all over, women are running, they're rock climbing. What hasn't changed enough, which is great. So the participation is there because people are seeing other women, they're joining clubs, men are getting their daughters into running or whatever. So the participation is there. Where we're still lagging is in the leadership area. And we still need a more diverse community in the sports industry. And I attribute a lot of this with growing up in a household with a single mom. And, she had to make her way in the computer industry. And so I always just saw this example of like, well, you know, if my mom can do it, she made her way. And so we were never told girls don't do this or girls don't do that. It was just, there's no one else here. Somebody's got to do it. And we're all girls. So I kind of learned that at a young age to just put myself in the game. And, when I launched the event, Rebecca's Private Idaho, that was 11 years ago now. We're going on our 12th year. And there's still very few female event directors. But I was just sort of like, I saw this need. I wanted to show people Idaho. I wanted to support my community. I wanted to fundraise more people on bikes. And if I don't do it, then who is? And so my advice to the women and the girls, when often we see and we're like, oh, I'm not ready, I'm not good enough, I'm not sure I'm trained enough. That's sort of sometimes a female trait, to want to be really prepared before we jump into something. And I'm going to tell everyone listening that, don't wait till it's perfect or exactly the right time, or that you have all the right skills. Is, just jumping in and going in with your heart and your passion and some grit. And oftentimes that's a recipe for success, even if you don't feel like maybe you're the right person for it. Because if you don't do it, it doesn't get done, or someone else is going to do it. And so it is hard. It is frustrating. I'm going to a big bike event, here in April, that a big race, and it's sort of a collection of community. It's a big expo. And I'm organizing a women in the industry networking event because there's not enough of us connected. And so we do have to kind of be the change we want to see in the world. And it is frustrating to be like, why aren't there more women doing this? And so it's like, okay, well, I'm going to continue to pave the way, because I know that my nieces, people coming up after me, they'll be like, yeah, of course I'm going to run an event. Why wouldn't I? Rebecca's done it. This person's done it. So I do feel really strongly about being an example for the next generations. And it is harder. But the choice is to do it or to not do it, really. So I like that you asked that question, but yeah, it's not changing fast enough for me. I'm a little bit anxious, which I love seeing. We've got 3 women here on this episode, which is great. And this is how it changes, is we just put ourselves in the ring,
Definitely. I have actually, to my niece, I always tell her and encourage her and motivate her. Same with other female friends in the sport, not just cycling, because I am guilty of what you just said. I need to be ready in order for me to get on that gravel bike and not think that I'm gonna fall in that cactus.
Yeah.
But what I mean, besides saying, hey, you know what, just go for it and do it.
Yeah.
What other motivational, I don't know, quotes will you say, or what advice will you give to the girls? Like, hey, you know what? Why don't you just try it?
Well, I'll go back to my high school running days. We need a community. We need other people that we can come and say, hey, can I join? Will you show me? You don't feel so weird if you're not alone. And so we have to create community. We have to invite people into clubs or events or podcasts. And, I learned that back in high school when I joined the cross country running team. I found a community, and they were other girls, and they were my friend. They became my friends, and they taught me and I taught them. And so I think whether it's finding one person, your neighbor, you're like, hey, let's go walk our dogs tomorrow together, and let's go see if we can go a little further than we did today. Like, it can be that simple. You don't have to start a whole new club, or if you can't find a club, it's as easy as asking somebody like, hey, would you show me? Or on the flip side, hey, can I take you bike riding if somebody doesn't know how, or can I take you running? So we do have to have community, and that's the biggest strength builder that I've ever found, from being a kid to even when I was launching my event. I asked my friends, what do you think about this? Should I do it? Would you come if I did it? And so I think that's my biggest advice, is that we're not in this world alone, and that we all need someone to lean on, someone to celebrate with, someone, a shoulder to cry on, whatever it is, and someone to go running with. So building that community, I think, is the first step into really making a difference. And whether you can search on the internet, you can find clubs and things all around you, or you can create one, which is a lot of times what I did. I didn't find what I needed in the bike industry, so I created women's bike events when I first started cycling, because there weren't any. And from there, women would ask me, well, there's not one in my town. Would you come to my town? I'm like, I can't come there, but you can do it. And they're like, really? How'd you do it? I'm like, you just get a bunch of people together. So there is a really nice snowball effect when we build community, one relationship at a time. And sport is such a great way to be like, hey, let's go on a walk. Let's go on a run. Let's go on a ride. It's such a great way. And then all this other stuff's happening that it's just sort of hidden behind using sport as the greatest teacher that I know in the world.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a great question. We got to keep pushing.
Keep pushing.
Yes, definitely. Rebecca, I'm super excited to ask you these questions. First off, I want to tell you that I admire you, your trajectory. You are just very, very inspiring. And I watched Blood Road, the movie, and I fell in love with just the whole process. And I would like to jump into that and ask you a few questions about it. The first one is, how did you physically prepare for that journey as you were starting? I know that you are a professional athlete, but that challenge is more than a race. Like, how did you prepare for it? For how long? What were the logistics of your training?
Yeah, well, I'll give a little background for those who don't know. Blood Road is a film that I did, but more importantly, it's a big ride that I did. So I went to ride the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, and I wanted to put together this adventure because that's where my dad was shot down, over the Ho Chi Minh Trail in the Vietnam War. We already talked about him, and I was well into my professional career and doing a lot of cool expeditions and going places. And I wanted to put together an expedition to go to the place where he died and trying to find a way to connect with him. And so I wanted to do a big, long bike ride on the Ho Chi Minh Trail. I don't think anybody had ever done it before. So I had kind of this adventurous goal as part of my career, but also a personal goal to connect with my dad and find a way to just see what he went through, see what the place was like. And so doing that ride, it's about 1,200 miles, and the Ho Chi Minh Trail was purposely hidden. And so it's like this network of crazy trails that some exist, some don't exist. And so there was a lot of planning to put together a historically accurate map and a route. And so I found this amazing man who lives in Laos, who's riding his motorcycle all over the place and studying the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So we found this guy, Don Duvall, and I reached out to Red Bull, a partner at the time, and just said, I want to go do this journey. Will you help me? And I did need to get a lot of logistical help, because it was really challenging to put all that together and get the access and permission. But I'll tell you, the training, you asked a question about training, that was the easy part for me. That was because that's what I do. I know how to train. I know how to navigate. I know how to plan my equipment. And so that part was really familiar to me. The part that really was the biggest challenge of that ride and that journey was the emotional part, because one, I'm not used to being filmed. I'm not like an actor or anything, and I'm a pretty private person. And so doing these interviews and opening myself up and being really vulnerable was absolutely the hardest part. And people will ask me, well, why did you have to ride 1,200 miles to go to this map coordinate where your dad's plane was shot down? And the reason I had to do that, I knew the emotional journey was going to be really hard. And so I needed to take a really long physical journey because that's what I know. I need to go on a long bike ride. We were a month on the trail because I needed to be able to kind of shed the layers of defense. And, I built my life around being this strong athlete and don't show any
Yeah,
weakness.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
you got this.
yeah,
And I knew I needed to make myself really tired
yeah.
physically in order to be able to open my heart up.
Yes, yes.
And so it was the most important ride of my life. It connected me with my family. It
Yeah.
connected me with my purpose for all this sport. And I
Mhm.
launched a foundation in my dad's name that's all about getting more people outside on bikes.
Mhm.
I started doing finding a lot more purpose in my expeditions
Mhm.
and still doing my sport, but adding in
Yes.
my personal goals, but the goal to bring other people into nature, into sport. And
Mhm.
my dad signed all of his letters home with the word good. And so
Mhm.
the Be
Mhm.
Good Foundation is what I launched in his name. And, that's kind of become my mantra
Yeah.
for my sport and bringing other people along for the ride.
Beautiful.
Thank you
Mm.
for asking about that. And if anyone wants to watch the film,
Well,
we can link it in the show notes, and
yes.
it's online. It's a great adventure, even if you're not a cyclist.
We were talking about that. So yes, please.
Much. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for answering that. And my next question, I also feel like you've already answered it, and it is what was one of the most challenging aspects throughout your journey? And as I hear you talking about it, getting ready, preparing, I feel that one of the most challenging aspects was like getting ready emotionally for that moment, right?
Yeah, and the fear or not knowing what was going to happen, not knowing my teammate. I
Mhm.
rode with a Vietnamese woman, Huen, who is amazing, and
Yeah.
she ended up being such a wonderful partner. But I had a lot of fear about not knowing her.
Mhm.
She didn't speak English very well. I don't speak Vietnamese, So there were a lot of unknowns where typically I am used to planning an expedition. I know the maps. I know where
Mhm.
I'm going. I've
Mhm.
looked at the weather.
Mhm.
I'm a little bit of a control freak in that way. And in this journey, I had to let go of control
Yes. Yes.
of a lot of things. And that's why I say I knew how to ride my bike, take care of myself, eat. That part was easy, but letting go of the control and being
Yes.
really vulnerable was really quite hard. And I learned a lot from Huen in that way, which was really beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Being vulnerable is tough to let go. It's tough to let go of control, But when you let go and open, that when you're able to really be, people see who you are, and they can relate a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yes, definitely. And do that journey of Blood Road, do you realize that it would become what it is today and to win an Emmy for that? Do you expect that, all of that, to happen?
No, I didn't expect, I had one really, really firm goal, and that was to complete the
Yeah,
whole ride
yeah.
and go to the spot. Like,
Hmm.
that was my goal. And I
Hmm.
wasn't thinking in the future of like, what
Hmm.
if this film does well, or what
Hmm.
happens next, or maybe I'll
Hmm.
launch a foundation. I really was so in the moment of, I want to do this ride.
Yes.
And so, no, I had no idea I would lead to what it's led to. It really did change my life and change
Mhm.
my career
Yeah,
in
yeah,
so many positive ways.
yeah,
So I had
yeah.
no idea.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
like that kid who started running in high school, I had no idea,
Yes, yes,
what would come later.
yeah,
I just
yeah.
knew that that felt right in the moment.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
sometimes we get so caught up on like trying to plan for the future.
Oh, oh,
And, you know, and this is why I'll be a lifelong athlete. People ask me,
yeah,
when are you going to retire? When are you
yeah,
going to?
yeah.
And the reason I'll be a lifelong athlete is because it's the one thing I know, sport,
Mhm.
that allows me to be in the moment. It
Yes,
allows me to just do what I'm doing.
yes.
And it's the way that I learn sort of how to live my life off the trail is all the stuff I practice on the trail.
Yeah,
Resilience, failure,
Mhm.
grit, all those things. I
Yeah.
really feel like outdoor sports that's our training ground for our life skills.
Oh, I could totally agree with that.
Yeah.
And like you never know what the future may bring. Like when I started running, training because I feel my needed weigh in. That's not no. I never know like I didn't know like 10 years from now or whatever I would be doing what I'm doing right now. We're running
Yeah.
and then the platform and stuff like that. And I was just trying to like lose some weight just to like get fit for the Navy.
Yeah, your military experience is amazing.
Uh, I like I said, I don't have the most amazing Navy military career, but I feel like it been like uh, I don't know. I know it served its purpose,
Yeah.
yeah, in my life, it was came at the right time when I needed it, yeah, so definitely,
I have an ask, sorry,
yeah.
for just going back to your foundation, to the Be Good Foundation, for people that don't know what it is. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I launched the Be Good Foundation after riding Blood Road, the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and really I was inspired by it because I learned about all of the unexploded bombs from a war that ended 50 years ago. There's still bombs there that are killing people along the trails, and I didn't know that. And so learning that from my dad, I felt really strongly like I could use my notoriety, my sports, my, world championships. I could use that, my position, to leverage and do good. And so I started the foundation with the initial sort of genesis story is to help clean up bombs along the Ho Chi Minh Trail where my father died. And so we do that as one of our projects, is we clear bombs along the trail, that, my father was part of that war, and I feel a responsibility to continue that healing. And then we've also expanded to really, we use the bike as a tool to connect people, to heal, to evolve. Because I thought about, well, what has the bike given me? And could I give that gift to more people? And so the Be Good Foundation does a lot of different projects, from scholarships for, people to go bikepacking or to come to my event or to get a bike. We do kids programs. We work with an organization in Africa that gets bikes for girls to ride to school, so they don't have to walk 3 hours to school. So we do a lot of different projects all around the bike, providing freedom for people and connectivity. Really, freedom and connectivity are what we do with the Be Good Foundation. And it's all centered around the bike as this universal tool, which is awesome. You can go anywhere in the world, and everyone of every age understands a bicycle, that it's freedom, that it's joy, that it's movement. Like we all remember that, taking the training wheels off as a kid, or that first bike ride where you're like, whoa, I can ride to my friend's house. And I want to provide that feeling for more people. And we work with veterans, we work with paracyclists, work with people healing from trauma or PTSD, people who've never ridden before and never have had that feeling. And so that's what the Be Good Foundation is about. And it's really joyful for me that I feel like my dad gave me a gift
Mhm.
to show me, hey, you can share this love of cycling with more people. And so the gift that he gave me was my purpose. And, more than standing on another podium or doing another great adventure, which hopefully I still will do, but that's not the ultimate goal anymore. The ultimate goal is to help other people reach their podiums.
Yes.
Thank you for asking that question.
No, I mean, I know what it is, but for people that are not aware of
Yeah.
it, I mean, it's great to let them know what is what's out there that you're being part of and promoting and bringing to the community. So I thank you for that. I have a lot of questions, so I don't know, Mons, if you have any. I mean,
Yes. So, Rebecca, you just mentioned about the Ho Chi Minh Trail and how I remember watching on the film that you found out that there were still live bombs on the trail.
Yeah.
And how did that, or how how did you change, or what did you do as you were riding toward your final destination, finding out that there were still bombs around, like on your bike? What went through your mind?
You know, when I first learned about all of the bombs, the unexploded ordnance is what they call it, and seeing bomb craters all around, first I was really saddened by the devastation of war and that we continue to keep doing, and we're still, doing this around the world. And I was really saddened by the impact on people, these villagers who have nothing to do with whatever politics were going on at the time. And so I just felt a lot of remorse about war and our choices, and what both sides must have gone through, what my dad must have felt. He didn't want to be there doing that. And what the Vietnamese felt, and the Lao people who weren't even at war, they just happened to be next door neighbors. And so I felt a real sadness about that. And felt compelled to do something. And I also felt really shocked that, like, how did we not know that all these bombs are still here, and that these villagers, these children who weren't alive, they live with, like, knowing they can't go into the fields because it's too dangerous. Or, like, so when we were there, you don't travel off the paths, you stay where the villagers have walked. And every year when they farm their fields, they have to think about, are they digging up more bombs? And so I just felt really really connected to the people and the humanity, and just feeling like we aren't all that different, that people just want to live a peaceful life. And yeah, and it was really quite devastating to learn about it, and to learn that the Vietnam War is such an old war, and there's still the bombs left there, and here we are dropping more now. And I think about, the communities in Ukraine and the people that 50 years from now, what they will be going through. And it feels too big sometimes for us to have any impact. And that's where I go back to, if more people join on a bike ride together, or go on a run together, or we form bonds together in that way. And, I bonded with Huen as a sister through the bike, and she was on the other side of the war. Her dad was on the Vietnamese side, my dad was on the American side, and here two girls riding a bike together produced a lot of healing and understanding and compassion for each other's experiences. So that was a really big part of the journey. And I don't think I'm going to solve war, but we can build relationships one at a time through sport.
Yes.
And it's pretty powerful. If you watch the film, I think that came across. But yeah, Huen and I we're like sisters. We're bonded by the experience.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Wow.
Yeah, it definitely was a powerful movie, and just how you use your platform, to bring people together it definitely, and it's a beautiful thing, Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes. And think that I know running some platform, to connect with different people, for the past few years also,
It is. I run with my dogs all the time. I still run a lot. And I mean, when I'm traveling, it's simpler to take a pair of shoes instead of take a bike. And so, people always ask, "Oh, well, you're a cyclist." And like, no, I'm an adventurer, an outdoor athlete. So
I like that. You run, you bike, you hike, you do everything. Yeah. Then Masood, she can relate to. She got like 5 or 6 dogs that she run with sometime.
Oh yeah, I saw one of them popping over there.
Yeah. So definitely. So also, I watched your TEDx talk. You go back to be vulnerable and connected, and you talk about how your mom and sister, after, like, I just saw how you being vulnerable, and then how it helped them to be open and vulnerable. Well, you could dive a little bit more into that, you just your family, your mom and sister, and just the impact of that.
Yeah, growing up, we didn't really talk about what happened to my dad. It's sort of too painful, and we were kids. We didn't know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was kind of the era that when people came home from the Vietnam War, no one
Yeah.
talked about it.
Yeah.
And it was sort of put under the carpet,
Yeah.
that sort of painful event that he just wanted to forget about. But
Mhm.
what I'm learning with trauma is you don't really forget about it. You can't
Mhm.
really sweep it under the carpet.
Mhm.
And unless you sort of talk about it
Mhm.
and go through it, it doesn't heal properly.
Mhm.
And so when this idea of this ride and this film came up, I had to ask my mom a lot of questions I'd never asked
Mhm.
about my dad. And,
Mhm.
she produced the letters that he'd written that I didn't know about. And I really was opening up a family wound,
Mhm.
digging in there and out of wanting to know and understand.
Mhm.
But it was definitely hard for my
Yeah.
mom and my sister because we put up a lot of barriers and a lot of walls. But
Yeah.
I sort of explain it is like was re-breaking a bone that didn't heal right
Mhm.
because it was healed all crooked,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
nobody
Yeah.
talked about
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
so I kind of got in there and it was really pretty painful at the time to
Mhm.
talk about all these things we'd never talked about.
Mhm.
Um, but now in the aftermath of it, my sister and I are way closer. I feel
Awesome.
closer to my dad, even though he's not here.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable asking my mom questions about it and it was good for us as a family, but it wasn't easy to
Yeah.
start stirring that up. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm proud of my family for going through it with me. I mean, there
Yeah.
was definitely a period where I was gonna kind of give up on the project because it seemed too hard, and
Mhm.
I almost quit
Yeah.
because I didn't want to hurt my mom and I didn't want to hurt people.
Mhm.
But now I'm glad that I pushed through and
Yes.
sort of pushed through the pain
Yes.
and got to the other side of it. And it
Yes.
was a really good lesson in me and opening up and trying to talk about hard things and
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, and in TED Talk, when I talked about that, that was the first time I really talked about Blood Road after I'd done the
Oh,
journey.
wow.
And I called the talk Navigating Home. And
Yes.
because I felt like,
Mhm.
going there
Yeah.
was going home in a way to connect
Yeah.
with my father.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, it was a powerful journey and it continues on. I'm glad
Yes.
you put it up and
Yeah.
I probably need to do another TED Talk soon.
There you go. There you go.
You just bring it down here so we can go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, I have a question. Another thing, different topics than what they have actually touched, but again, I would love for people to know you and besides being an athlete, an amazing athlete, a badass, a lot to say, the whole word, but Rusch Academy,
Yeah.
how was it born?
So I have quite a few, I thank you for asking. I have quite a few little business arms of my business. And they're all around basically what I do as an athlete is I hopefully inspire, educate, and advocate. So hopefully I inspire people to get outside and move their bodies and live an active lifestyle, go on big adventures, do scary things. I really focus on educating people on how to do that, like what to eat, what to wear, how to fix your bike, how to stay motivated. There's a lot of mindfulness in the teaching that I do as well, not just the physical journey. So and then advocating for the Be Good Foundation, advocating for health and wellness for women, for, underserved communities. And so Rusch Academy is one of my offerings where I teach a 4-day gravel cycling camp out in the wilderness in Idaho. There's no cell phone coverage. And we ride, we do breathing techniques, we eat healthy food, we talk about challenges in the evenings after the rides. You learn how to navigate on your bike. And so, yeah, Rusch Academy is an in-person camp that I do in June. There's still space if anyone wants to come to Idaho. And then I have some online classes offering as well for people wanting to get into gravel cycling specific stuff. And then the other parts of my business, I do public speaking. I help teach camps for other people or do corporate training sessions. And it's all focused around, like I said, that goal of inspiration, education, and advocating for other people to get outside and go move in nature. So there's a lot of different arms to my business that it's all centered around being an athlete.
Yes.
But I'm really trying to use my experience and my decades of what I've learned to share with other people to help them on their journeys.
I love it.
Yeah, maybe Rusch Academy is for you. You come ride with me. It's so fun.
Yes, that'd be awesome. We could do that. Yeah. So,
I
yes.
do want to say it's on my bucket list. Unfortunately, this year is a little too tight in time, but
Yeah,
next year I definitely
cool.
want to be going to
Awesome.
Rebecca's Private Idaho and the
Cool.
academy. So
Love that.
Awesome.
my husband's actually from Idaho, so I've been around the area and I know it's beautiful.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm gonna
Well,
shut up now.
we'll see you back here next year.
That's wonderful, caller. Great questions. You know, yeah. So, Masseuse, you had more question?
I do have another question. I'm telling you, I'm full of questions.
Okay.
Go for it. Go for it.
Do you have any questions? Because I can keep on going.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, maybe I want to close with this one because it may be
Okay.
a little too personal, but if you want to ask yours, then I'll ask mine.
Go ahead, Carla. Go ahead.
Okay, so here it is. Rebecca, I apologize in advance if it's too uncomfortable. But as a woman in the sport, any kind of sport, how do you deal with your personal evolution in growing older? Meaning, it can go from your periods being bloated, menopause, premenopause. Like, how do you integrate that into your life as an athlete? What obstacles or challenges or whatever that you have that has helped you overcome that or deal with? I'm asking because there are several ladies that I know that are struggling with it, and we don't talk about it.
Well, and I'm looking for a book on my shelf. So there's some I will say, yeah, it's different being a female athlete than, but this is the body we were given. Okay. So let's make it the best we can. I will say now there are so many more resources on menopause, on periods, on, girls as athletes. There's resources for coaches. And there's this awesome book that I'll get off my shelf and put in the show notes that a woman wrote that goes through kind of all of the stages of being a female athlete. And it's an amazing resource. So there's a lot more science to it. And that's where women, they want to know, they want to ask their friends, they want to be like, hey, what are you going through? And so I love right now that these conversations, it's not too personal. Like, we're human beings and we're women, like, no big deal. So I love that the conversations are out in the open. The science is starting to support and be out there for women's education. So we're like, hey, how do we navigate this? And yeah, and if okay, I'm gonna feel this way or I'm gonna feel that way, then you can plan your run days, you can plan your schedules, you can kind of plan your life to be like, instead of taken by surprise. And I remember as a young girl, this is nothing to my mom, but like, she never talked to me about periods. Like, I had to ask my sister, like, I don't know what's going on. Can you tell me? And we're not that way anymore. Now we are having these conversations. We're helping each other as women, as girls. And so I love that it's out in the conversation. And so how I navigated it, I just kind of pushed through because I didn't have resources, but people have resources now and they can have the conversation. I will tell you, no matter what stage of life I'm in, I feel better when I exercise. I feel better when I exercise. And so you may not feel like getting out the door. You may not, and I credit my dogs with, like, I have to walk my dogs every day. So even if I don't go on some big bike ride or run, I go out and move. And that science is now showing, Your brain is happier when you move.
Yes.
Your hormones are more stable when you move. You know, your skin is better, your circulation is better, your nervous system is better. So that is the one thing, no matter what stage anyone's going through, male or female, we feel better when we move.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Movement is medicine. That's what I like to say. And it's a great question. And thank you for asking it and just not being weird. Like, hey, let's ask about this because I'm a female and I'm an athlete. And hey, I'm going through this. And I tell people my age a lot because I want to normalize. I'm 55. I am post-menopause. And because I just want it to be normal. Like, oh, wow, this is what an athlete at 55 looks like. Okay, great, cool. Like, because like I said in the beginning, if you can see an example that you look up, you're like, oh, wow, like she's doing that stuff and she's 55 and she's post-menopause, like, cool. I can do that too. So yeah, thank you for asking and putting the conversation out there and normalizing it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm one of the ones that I'm trying to break the patterns or how we grew up, because old school family, I'm Mexican and Hispanics, Latin, uh, we don't talk about that.
Yeah.
It's not known. Like we don't ask questions, but I personally am trying to making sure that we do discuss it. It's normal.
Yeah.
It's how are you feeling? It's okay. But I have a nickname for you now. Is Rebecca Push Through Rusch? Love it. Love it.
Sometimes that just the only way through is through.
100%. 100%. And that's definitely gonna be engraved in my head. I mean, I already knew pushing through is good, but and good for your soul, for your body, and just to become a better person, not just as an athlete, but in life. But yeah, now it's like there.
I love it.
Cool. Awesome. Great questions. Okay, Ms. Hoost, you got another question?
Yes, Rebecca, before we finish, I'd like to ask you, what goals do you have for this year? Like short, term goals for this year in your career. You seem like a very passionate person, full of different, like you said, your business has all these different arms, and you are a busy person. So what are your goals? What are your goals this year? What are you looking forward to in everything that you do? Like just if you could just give us some bullet points. I want to do this, and that, accomplish this year.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for asking. So one of the big goals is to not work quite as much because I want to be outside more often. So that is one of the morphs of my business, is to make sure I don't lose the thing that I love the most. And so I have some outdoor adventures planned. Have some bike packing, is basically backpacking but on a bike. So I've got some overnights planned with friends in my area. And so that's a big part of it. And with the business, we have Rebecca's Private Idaho's year number 12. We have Rusch Academy going. So those things are kind of established. Be Good Foundation is growing with a new executive director.
Cool.
So we've got some great projects. And then in my business, what I'm really excited about is I'm working a lot on my speaking and my public appearances, and I developed a concept that I call the athlete operating system. And it's a set of principles and kind of guidelines that I've used for people to embrace an athlete lifestyle and mindset to achieve success in any arena, whether it's in their work, their family life, of basically eat, breathe, sleep, act like an athlete. And that is going to bring you success in anything that you do. So I'm working on the athlete operating system and getting that out in the world to reach more people.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Wow, Thank you so much for answering that question. And I wish you the best. I wish you the best. Blessings your way. You have really inspired me personally. And it's just, I feel very excited.
That's cool. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for that question. So Rebecca, that would have ended with.
Oh, hold on. One last question before you end it. One
Okay.
last.
Okay.
Promise.
Okay.
So, Rebecca, I remember hearing in the podcast from Rich Roll a long time ago, a few years ago, I believe so. The Be Good Foundation. Are you guys still producing the bracelets?
Yes. So I thank you for asking that question. So we partner with a company called Article 22, and we have these beautiful bracelets, the earrings that I'm wearing. And it's all of the jewelry. It's engraved with the words "Be Good," and it's all made from bombs that are cleared in Laos through our fundraising. And then the purchase of each jewelry item goes back to clear more bombs along the Ho Chi Minh Trail. And so it's this beautiful circle, a dedication to my father and to the community that lives there, that is still living with bombs. So the jewelry they're really fun ways to give back. And the jewelry is all made by Lao tradesmen. They make the jewelry there themselves. So it's this beautiful circle of healing. So yeah, that jewelry's on my website. Yeah. And yeah, thank you for asking. It makes great gifts. It's inexpensive and it's made from bombs that are cleared from the ground, and they go back to clear more bombs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for answering all the questions, for being such a good sport. Once again, I am truly excited. Kenneth made my day. To be honest with you, you made my day. It's been an honor. So now I'm gonna shut up.
That's okay.
I feel the same way. Thank you for your energy.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Yes. Also, I love this. I mean, I wish you could do this for hours. Maybe one day we will. In person. To sit down and chat for hours. Definitely.
I hope we'll meet in person on a trail or a bike or something.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. Gotta make it happen. Gotta make it happen. Yeah. So, it do definitely. Your journey. Like truly inspiration. To all of us. And just and to have you on here. So yes. But I do have one more final question before we let you go. Because this is Live Run Boundless. So what's your boundless motivation and thoughts in a few words?
Well, the words that push me to boundless motivation are "be good," my dad's word. And they're not be perfect, be excellent, just be good, and I think about that a lot when I'm struggling or things are too hard or I'm working too much. It's like, okay, what would my dad say to me? And he'd just be like, be good,
Be good.
doing a good job. And so I use those words a lot. And what helps me live boundless is being outside and moving, being in the outdoors.
Yes, definitely. I love it. Just it'd be good. Just being out there, 'cause being outside, being out the trails, adventuring, definitely is being boundless. So yeah, definitely. So I like the adventure. We talk about adventuring and just and I got testing your limits. You just talk about a lot. Your website, and just really. Yeah. So it's all I just love it all. That's still trying to do, just be balanced and just venture and do all of that, and push your limits. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks for everything that you're doing as well to get more people running and moving and active. I really appreciate your work.
Yes, definitely. So definitely thank you to my co-hosts. Yes, Carla and Mo. I know.
Monse.
Monse. Monse, get it right.
Monse.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Carla Monse, thank you for joining me for Pinnacle Sports. Be my guest co-host. Y'all were the perfect fit for this moment. And so thank you. And also thank you, Rebecca. Before we leave, Rebecca, do you have one final thing that you want to say, to us?
Well, thank you for spreading the joy of movement in the outdoors and being good. And people can connect with me on my website in any way that they want. And I would invite invite people to connect and come ride or whatever.
Yes, that's awesome. Cool. Okay, thank you, Wes. Thank you, Wes, again. And also thank you, Live Run Boundless family, for joining me for another episode of the Live Run Boundless show. Living a life beyond the boundary you set on yourself. And thank Rebecca for being that example in your journey of life, living beyond your boundaries, pushing the limit, and doing it with a purpose, not just for yourself, but also to inspire others that come after you or those that, before you, I guess, also. Yeah. So thank you again for the example. And until next time, family, see y'all soon.
Thank you.
That was awesome. I'm going to grab that book off my